Okay, it's a little work in progress. I hope I don't tax your attention span. It's a story. And we'll call it a sexy bipolar story. It's not fiction, it's more like a misrepresentation fueled by delusion, we'll call it. That'll fly in court too if you get a really good lawyer. Okay. He was walking down the street one afternoon in late October, and I was driving by. He'd just gotten thrown out of a bar, and I'd just been to the liquor store. The way I figured it, we were made for each other. So, I'll take you home, I taunted. No, just drop me at the corner. Bullshit, I grinned. Well, do you know where I live? I have an idea, I said. I read the papers. Ah, he groaned. Man, you're gonna write about this. You're gonna write about me. The 20 or so nymphomaniacs in my brain were licking their chops. Paper, scissors, rock, death grip. There was no way I was gonna lose. Fine, I purred, whatever you say, but I don't have a lot of time. So let's get a drink and you tell me all about how it's gonna go down. He groaned in protest again, but I wasn't waiting for any arguments. I grabbed the bag full of liquor and walked through the gate, past the fountain, and across the lawn to the French doors like I owned the place. God himself was guiding my steps. I had 2 glasses of bourbon poured as he came in the kitchen, still complaining. Cheers, I said. I had wanted to get with this boy from the first time I saw him. It was a senior show 5 years before at the art school. He was a brilliant wild child phenomenon, busting out with furious indifference to everything but paint. Well, and the usual decadent pastimes of an art student in South Minneapolis. I had a respectable commitment to liquor and drugs, so we had friends in common, plus the friends who brought me to the show. Still, I had never actually met him, nor did I see any of his work that night. Edward's early paintings had something of the born genius in them. He had a natural instinct for color dynamics, visually rhythmic harmony. Phrases like wild order and powerful vulnerability were batted about by people who knew art and how to talk about it. And there was a lot of that kind of talk, but I had to get to the wine table before they ran out. And there he was, standing there laughing with his head thrown back. I just stared at him. He was a mess, with rumpled hair the color of a bird's nest, all long legs, and a wrinkled suit and no tie. My grandma would have said that he looked like a sick cat. But he had a diamond-hard twinkle in his gray eyes, though, like he'd just gotten laid. It was 7:30 at night. I was dead jealous. Sometimes there's magic in life, and sometimes things are pure. And at that moment, when I very first saw him, I felt desire so pure that the very devil could not have upset my preternatural focus. You will be mine, I whispered. And I sent him a wink that he never saw coming. Then I went home and went to bed. Anyway, they were out of wine. Meanwhile, he went to New York and got very famous. He had his own gallery, and the New York Times wrote about him constantly. People talked about him, argued about his work. Was it really raw and original, or was it crap? Was he a fraud? Was it derivative of blah, blah, blah? Was he provoking a movement like that Russian guy in his simple black square on a white background? Was he poking a starlet? Was Edward Franzen, our hometown barefoot boy, an evil materialist? A drug addict? Or worse, a makeup-wearing homosexual? I smiled. I had no opinion. I was calmly, yea, patiently, waiting to take off all of his clothes. As it turned out, it was more difficult than I thought. He didn't like the fact that I had a boyfriend. Christ, a moralist. Look, I said, don't be rude. I don't ask questions about your girlfriends. And that shut him up. Partly because there was one woman from whom he dutifully tried to conceal the rest of us, and partly because I was right. I knew there wasn't a lot of time. He was not the sort that could or would be alone for long. There was a short leash in his future. But you didn't hear me complaining. I was all action. By winter, we had graduated from the floors and the couches to his bed, and he was never going to get his house sold, ostensibly his reason for being in town, if I had anything to do with it. And he had this Bavarian chick in New York, Miss P, who was a model, and she and Edward were always getting photographed together at the symphony or at clubs. And the press, especially the local press, loved to get all over it like crows on roadkill. She had just had a show in Paris or Milan, and she was calling one night to tell him about it. Eddie, did you see my picture in Vanity Fair? I kept answering his phone and hanging up on her. She was cutting into my time, and I didn't have a lot. Miss P had given Edward a very expensive painting, an original by Van Doesburg, which, on principle, I hated, and cleverly renamed Van Douchebag. She called for the 10th time one night. I couldn't believe she had the stamina. In pictures, she always looked ghoulish, and like she might kill for a bologna sandwich. I felt a little bad. I lost my cool a little. I relented and handed Edward the phone. I was not, however, handing away my dignity. "Will you please tell her," I said, speaking loudly so she could hear, and slowly, in case she didn't understand, "that we are fucking sick of this formless caca around here. Could you please send some Max Beckman round ASAP?" Edward had to console her. Nobody, he was saying. It's nobody at all. "It's Mary fucking Poppins," I screamed, pummeling him from behind and knocking the phone out of his hands again. God, I hated being second best. Beckman and Van Doesburg were contemporaries, as far as I could gather from the art books I would read after Edward passed out. But Van Doesburg was all about diagonal lines, rectangles, primary colors. He worked with the basic elements of design to produce compositions with a sophisticated balance. Think Mondrian, but at a 45-degree angle. His stuff was okay. Beckman, on the other hand, I could actually get. Now, there was some content. He was over there in devastated post-World War I Germany, feeling sick and full of angst. His paintings were cluttered and off-kilter, grotesque and absurd. He said, "We must place the jumble of things between us and the emptiness of space, so that we do not see its terrible depths." Me and Beckman, we understood something about the terror of empty space and existence and time, or in my case, the terrible not enoughness of it. Sometimes I'd have tantrums and slam doors or break dishes and glasses. I'd bang on the grand piano and threaten Edward's half-done canvases with a screwdriver. One time I tried really hard to strangle him when he said that he was depressed and wanted to die. Somebody probably should have killed us both. We were loud and sickening and invincible. I'd do anything for a fight and a little drama. And more whiskey and more cigarettes, and my favorite part, the point of the whole thing, as I understood it, more fucking.